this is a new beginning. And it's kind of like, wait a minute, what if it's not about becoming someone new? What if it's not about building a new version of myself? What if it's becoming the person I always wanted to be? Not only am I healing myself from that journey, it's like, wait a minute, there's some things from prior to the military that I haven't healed from.
Welcome to the Vet Rides podcast. I'm your host, Juan Perez. My goal is to make success after service accessible to every veteran in society. I believe in the power of leveraging your service, not as a label that defines you, but as a launching pad for your next chapter. What we have been doing has not been working, and it's on us to start changing the culture. Enjoy the episode, and thank you for your time. All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Vet Rides podcast. I am here with a new guest. I know I have not done a guest in a while, but I watched his videos online. He reached out to me a while back, and I missed his message. And I finally got to see some of his videos online, and I felt like they really spoke to me the same way that a lot of people tell me that my videos speak to them. So I wanted to bring him on the podcast. I wanted to give him a chance to be able to tell his story, explain a little bit more about what he does and why he does it, and also give a chance to really give his thoughts into the world. So I want to just give him a chance to introduce himself. So Chris, do us a favor. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us who you are, and tell us why you do what you do, my man.
Hey guys, Cjayy here. Go by Cjayy, go by Chris. On my pages, I'm CyberPsych Co. Yeah, I just 6 years in the U.S. Army kind of did a number on me, but not as much as a number as everyone else. And I think that's kind of why I like to do what I do. I like to build that bridge between those who have seen the worst and those who have seen just enough. Kind of speak to that, build that bridge, especially for people that may not be familiar with this kind of things that we go through and the stuff that JP and we do on the internet for the veteran community. Right now I work IT. I'm back home. I'm back in the civilian world, back with family. And I guess I still didn't feel like that mission was finished yet, or at least I found a new one. If you ask me my why, right, my new task and purpose, I see these comments, I see these videos. At the end of the day, like I'm making these videos for myself, and people just happen to notice them, and got to keep going. It's how I know that everything that I've been through, everything that I've yet to been through has got to be for a reason if I can bring other people into that loop.
Talk to me about that. So you made them
Yeah.
for yourself. I love that because I think about that too when I make these videos, right? How do you go from making them for yourself, making the progress that you need to see in your life, and then remembering what it felt like back then to still be able to make the videos? Because I'm having that problem right now for me. Because obviously you make these videos and you want to be able to speak to the person that you were. But obviously that means that you're improving and you see stuff from a different angle. How do you flip that switch of being able to still talk to that person, to still help that veteran? Because honestly, like I'm having that problem. So I would love to know what your tool is or your system is for still being able to like remember what it was like.
Yeah. And it's funny because the healing process is kind of the opposite of what we kind of talk about, community, being there for each other, but you kind of take a step back, how you need to take care of others if you can't take yourself, right? And that's kind of the kind of step that I took. I realized like here's this dream of me like moving forward, me becoming better than I was when I was still deep down hurting inside, not just from the military, but even some things that even prior that I was going through. So video editing, for example, right? Kids my age or were my age, they always want to be like the next YouTuber, the next gaming YouTuber, whatever. But naturally, that dream faded away as I grew up. And as I started diving back into it, I realized I still had a knack for video editing. I still had a knack for content creation. I just, everyone's doing it nowadays. I'm not going to be as good. Everybody watches this stuff. Nobody watches this stuff. It's a part of that. And I decided to just take a topic that meant so much to me, that I was personally struggling with, that I noticed. I figured if I can, right, and we learn this too, like the best way to prove that you know something is the ability to teach it. So what better way can I bring light to this topic by researching it, making a script for it, talking about it in ways that deep down I wish somebody would say to me, or at least I wish somebody had said to me a long time ago. So really at the end of the day, like I'm speaking to myself, I'm speaking to that version of myself that hasn't exactly gone away, but that's still buried down there. Like not just my inner child, but also my inner, 18-year-old, my inner 20-year-old that was still in the military, that at sometimes like at the end of the day, or like, the version of me 8 months ago that was, locking myself in my room, living with my parents. Like the things that I say in my videos, the things that I cover, the shows that I watch, those are all things that I wish someone had told me this sooner. And by bringing this to light, I'm able to, get that early and accurate warning for everyone else that it's happening to, because I reach out to dudes that are just recently getting out, friends that are going through the exact same thing that I went through, and I'm able to stop them, before it got to the level that it got for me. I could share a story about that later with a personal friend of mine.
But I like what you said about being able to stop them, because it is a stop. A lot of people think that it's well, you have to go through a transition and it takes time. And like the answer to that is yes, but it can also be a hard stop. It can also be like you stop walking in that direction, like you turn around.
Yeah.
So I like what you said about that. Yeah, talk to us a little bit more about the process. So I like your videos are awesome, by the way. Like I watched them and I felt like it was just this messaging that I needed to hear too, that I've been trying to share too. But it just feels very much the storytelling, and I love the way that you do the voice, the tone, everything. It hits right, man. So
Yeah.
yeah, tell us a little bit more about that story that you want to mention.
2020, right? All this started, or at least the biggest impact was I lost my roommate. He committed suicide back in 2020, and that was kind of the deep pit that I fell into survivor's guilt. And little basically teaser trailer into that entire story is that I blamed myself for the longest time. Like, I had all the receipts, I had all the messages. I recall, the last things I ever said to him. We were in the same platoon together, and that was something that took me in. I was just beginning my second contract in the military, so going from that and then going to my next duty station and becoming a team leader, I definitely fell into that trap of like, oh, it's very unbecoming of an NCO to like get over this. And eventually, like, it realized that it took me 3 years to realize how much I was still hurt by something that happened. That to that day, I was still, blaming myself for what happened, what I could have done. And then that's when I like, oh, there's a medical term for this. It's called survivor's guilt, right? And I took that with me everywhere I go, and I took everything to heart because I felt like every mistake I made, everything I did was like a disgrace to everything that he stood for and that everything that me and him believed in. Fast forward to a couple years ago, I had a friend of a friend who was also a Marine, and lost his twin brother. Fell into, they both served together in the Marines, and then one of them took it harder than the other, and he kind of fell into that he kind of fell into an overdose. And it's a shame because it wasn't necessarily suicide, but if you think about the signs, like, it might as well been. Point is, she reached out to me like, hey, he's going through this, and she knows what I've been through. She's like, hey, like, can you help him? Can you like talk to him, please? And I dropped everything I was doing. I reached out to him, and I told him like, hey, I told him the 4 magic words that I wish I was taught. It's not your fault. And he was like, no, dude, I seriously, like, I just looked at him at the floor, like, I thought he was just sleeping. Like, and he had all proof, he had all this evidence. Like, no, dude, you just got to tell yourself it's not your fault. And that's when I realized that everything that I had been through, yes, it hurt, it developed me as a person, but not only that, it's almost like I have an obligation now to help others, because now that I've healed from it, now that I've gotten over it, there are some people that haven't. So in the 3 months, he's still hurting, but it took him 3 months to realize what took me 3 years to realize, was that it wasn't my fault. And so by introducing me to him in his life, and like going through something similar, and passing on the healing that I had to endure, he was, who knows what he would have fell into if I had never met him, if I've never reached out to him. And to this day, me and him are still good friends. And if I can do that for someone I know personally, then imagine how much more reach, we can do on platforms like this, like you and me do.
Well, I think that's amazing. I think that what's crazy to me, I think what's wild is the fact that we don't realize that in the military, we are taught something over and over again that no one ever says to us directly. Nobody ever tells us directly, you cannot show emotions, they make you weak. Like, no one ever says that to us, but and maybe we do, right? But we pick that up throughout the entire time in the military. And then nobody ever tells us when we get out, like, hey, you're out now. You can show emotions now. Like, it's not weakness, and we never learn that. So we get out and we have this unrealized idea that we were taught that we cannot show emotions or it is weakness. So therefore, we relate, in my opinion, asking for help as emotional. Tears, crying, sadness, loneliness, isolation, all of these things are emotions. And I think that we feel like we can't show them because in the military, when someone showed emotion, everybody talked shit about them. When someone showed what people perceived as weakness, everybody just said this person is fucking useless. You know, you were put on this malingerers list, or you were looked at as the outcast. And I remember, and it's almost hard to talk about because I remember the people in my platoon that showed emotion and that the way that they were treated. And like that sticks with me. So it sticks with you when you get out. And then it's hard to show emotion. It's hard to speak up because you have all this upbringing that the military gave you of what will happen if you do show emotion, right?
Yeah.
How do you think we can get over that, or is that even a problem, or is there a better way to explain it?
I think it's definitely a culture thing. I think that it kind of contradicts itself, right? The military's culture, like when you're still active duty, right? You kind of get that we need to get ready to go to war tonight if we
Mm,
had to, right? And I think because that mentality is always there, I think we should focus more on like readiness as leadership and like equipment and all of that. But the thing is that even if units that don't even deploy, like they're in garrison for 9 months straight, like throughout all that, they're still carrying this like belief, like, oh, you need to be strong, you need to be a leader, like you're this, that. Um, just because the mission's got to get done. So back to my perspective, right? I lost my roommate November of 2020,
mm,
and I PCS'd to my next duty station that next summer. So like
mm,
less than 7 months later. And I PCS'd as a corporal. So imagine what that looks like is
mhm.
showing up to a new unit, like, oh, this guy's, a 22-year-old corporal, like he's either high speed or he's promoted for no reason, and then like this and that, immediately pushed into a team leader position. And it's not that they said, all right, you got to be tough, you got to be like, dude, I was at Fort, I was at NTC, right? Non-deployable, like, professional laser tag players. I loved it there, but that was kind of our mission there. We were playing Op 4. So even still, like we were far from that whole like line unit combat thing, but we were still like combat MOS. So even though there wasn't this message of like we need to like fight our nation's wars because that just wasn't our mission at that unit, I still had that self-imposed like I'm wearing this rank, I'm wearing this uniform, like I am a team leader now. So despite what our mission is, I still have to be that person for them. So just pushing it to the side, um, kind of perpetually having that like, all right, that strict mindset, right? I can't show them. So that's kind of how I fell into that pattern. Like something that just happened 7 months ago, I had pushed to the side for essentially 2-3 years straight, because of my position there, and it just amplified everything. So I either pushed it to the side, or every mistake I made, every bad call that I made as a team leader, like I would take it to heart, and that would damage me even further. Um, and especially moving back with family too, because NTC was in California. I'm from California, and every long weekend that I had, I would go back home. So I went the whole week, 10 days in the field, being that team leader with my guys surviving out in the desert, and I'd literally go back home and sitting on my parents' couch. And there was no bridge between that. Like I would go home, I'd start like talking to my family, like 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 like, hey, why isn't this done yet? Like, hey, how come we're late on this? Just running that mindset. I'm like, I'm speaking to my own parents, I'm speaking to my own family, because I'm still in that team leader mindset. And it got really bad for me because I couldn't differentiate the two. I didn't know how to separate. Like I just came back from that field environment, and then going back home and wondering like, oh, my parents, oh, they're running late for church again. And I talk to them, it's like,
I remember this
um,
as you say it. I remember doing the
yeah,
same thing, which is
yeah,
wild because I haven't thought about this in years. Wow.
yeah. And it's like, I think it's cool. Like, and it really broke my heart because I stopped and realized, because like I remember like throwing a fit with my parents, like, no, why is this? Like, no, we need to get this done. And I remember just like over stressing a situation, and they just weren't taking it seriously. And the fact that they weren't taking it seriously got me heated even more. And then my dad kind of just looked at me. He's like, hey, like, in our language, he's like, it's like, son, we're not soldiers.
Yeah.
And he kind of said it as a joke, but in my head, I'm like,
Damn.
that's right,
Yeah.
you know. um,
Yeah. I think that I
and
think that we I think that you're kind of making me think about this a little bit more than I've ever thought about it before, which I really appreciate.
yeah,
I've always said that in the military, it is necessary to put those emotions aside and like win wars and be war fighters. That there is no time to slow down and process emotions and all these things. And it's not that I've said that it's necessary, but like that is the machine. The military creates war fighters and wins wars and mission readiness, right? And when you get out, the responsibility becomes yours. I think to fix a lot of the trauma, address a lot of the issues. But I do remember being in the military and getting back from Afghanistan and going to this tent that they set up right there in the God, what do they call that? Right in front of battalion, whatever. See, I like forgetting military terms because that means that I'm making space for new terminology in my life, right?
yeah,
But where we did formation all the time. I can't believe I forgot the term of this. We were there all the time. Anyway, they set up a tent there and they brought in therapists and they asked all these questions. And you were basically told that you're fine before you even went to talk to them. So you're pre-programmed already in the military to say that you're fine, even when you may not be fine. But it really creates this idea that you are a war fighter and that you are fine no matter what. So I got back from Afghanistan and I felt like I was fine, even though maybe I wasn't. And to be honest, I don't know. I mean, obviously, probably not. But went through this thing, talked to this therapist. She asked me how I was doing. They were doing a screening for everybody that came back from Afghanistan. I said, I'm fine. And that was it. I moved on. And then you get out and you did this idea that you keep having to say that you're fine, because you've been pre-programmed.
yeah,
How do you think that we can wash away that mentality of always having to be fine because we always had to be ready? We always had to be, you know what I mean? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, how do we wash
yeah,
away that mindset of people look at us as a team leader, as an NCO, as someone that's supposed to have the answers or supposed to find the answers at the very least?
yeah,
How do we wash away that responsibility and allow ourselves to say that we're not fine? Because we go through so much shit, right? And your videos really speak on that,
yeah,
right? And I like the journey and I like the way that you put it because I think that it just really, when I watched your videos, I felt like it gave me permission to watch it as a journey with no personal bias in it. And I really like that. But like, how do you think we let go of that mindset of like feeling like we have to be one way to change and evolve and grow in the society that we're a part of now?
yeah. Well, I think, well, before we like how to let go, like we can think about why.
Mhm.
And right, Army, and then you were Marines.
Yeah,
What's the common phrase, right? Once a Marine, always a Marine,
yeah,
right?
which is a
And then
dangerous phrase, man.
which is
I
dangerous
have opinions on that.
because yeah, and that's why I bring that up. And the Army kind of took a right step, but kind of did it subtly so people don't realize. I remember back when I first got in the transition academy when you're leaving the Army, at least, used to be called SFL, Soldier for Life
Mhm.
Academy, right? And then they slowly changed it over the years to TAP, to Transition Academy, something
I
like
think
that.
they've all gone in that direction, but we,
And
we
I
have
think, yeah,
TAP as well.
I think that's an interesting like movement and interesting change, because I think they kind of realize that, hey, you're getting out soon, your contract's expiring, you're going back out there, and the school you went to is called Soldier for Life,
Mm,
right? Or like you're leaving the Marines, like, hey, like, thank you for your service. By the way, just remember, once a Marine, always a Marine, right?
hmm
And then so you kind of have that mentality, especially when you go over and you kind of like, you bring it up in conversations, you meet new friends, like, oh yeah, I was in the military.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I was in the Marines. So like, imagine if you truly let go, if you truly became a whole different person, you became lax, if you were one of those people that, really had a lot of respect for the organization you were part of, you have that mentality like, all right, because I mentioned I was part of the US military, I was part of the Army, I was part of the US Marines, right? You kind of have that subconscious effort, like, okay, now that I mentioned that I was what I was, I have to bring that mentality over, right?
Also, like
And
it's an expectation of society, maybe,
yeah,
or you believe that society has an expectation of what you should be like if
yeah,
you say that you're this.
yeah. So like
Okay, interesting.
imagine if I was an outsider, or
Um,
just like even someone who was never in the military and like just saw one of my videos, right? Here I am talking about emotional behaviorment and like anime, all these things just kind of bring the topic and like, yeah, these are the emotional things, these are things you're going through. It's okay to heal, it's okay to be loving and kind. And then you mentioned like, yeah, I was part of an organization that was pretty much the opposite of all of that. And
mm,
it's not that you're contradicting yourself, but it's kind of like, how do you keep up that image? Like from the moment you join, you realize that you are joining an organization that is famous around the world for their respect, for their resiliency, and all that. So when you get out and you say, "Yeah, I was a Marine," and then they're looking at you, like at an anime convention, going to behavioral health and like giving love and everything like that,
yeah.
right? It kind of feels like you have this perpetual need to always represent what you were part of, and I think that's
Mm,
why it is difficult for guys to let go and really like it the same way you went from a civilian to the military, you went through boot camp, you went through that entire change. We probably need something just as drastic to bring you back.
yeah,
Uh,
that's
and
true.
the academy, the transition academy, right? They're obviously great tools. I did appreciate that academy, but they taught you how to do job interviews. They taught you how to make your LinkedIn profile. They taught you,
Did you do
all
it on
these great.
base?
I did it on base.
Yeah, we did too. I always
Yeah,
felt like it should have been off base, but
yeah. You were
that's
still in
besides the point.
uniform too.
They
Like you're
switched it for
aware.
us. We were not in
Yeah,
uniform anymore.
yeah,
But let me just share this with you, and I want to keep going. But
yeah,
there was a retired first sergeant that did our training, and we were late because our platoon sergeant sent us to the wrong side of base, and he yelled at us. So right away he set the tone of like, this is still military. So we weren't bought into it because we had this retired first sergeant who had his shirt tucked in that yelled at us because we were late. So it defeats the purpose
yeah,
of what we're trying to do here. So that
yeah,
for me ruined the experience, and I think
yeah.
that's a like for a lot of people.
And even still, and it's also the expectations for employers too. Like once they see like prior military on your resume, they're kind of like, oh, okay, he's military. He's got to be resilient. He's got to be on time for everything. He's got to be squared away,
Mm-hmm.
and or he's got to handle stress well. Like that's awesome. And then you kind of have that going.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, but like, yeah, so they talk about professionalism, they talk about this, they talk about still representing like your skills, how to bring your skills that you picked up, like how to be on time, how to do this, but they never really talked about anything else on the emotional side.
Right.
like
Ever.
hey hey, don't lose track of your skills of being on time, don't last your skill of like having accountability of all your items and all of your equipment. They never teach you like, hey, like you don't have to fight anymore, you don't have to be
Right.
so like hard on everyone. Like imagine if you were a first sergeant that was retiring and you become a manager. Like I remember
Oh yeah, the lifers
our
have it sometimes the hardest.
yeah,
Sometimes.
yeah. Some the story that I heard, he was a retired first sergeant, gone special forces guy, right? Super into it, retired out 20 years. His first job out was a manager at Chuck E. Cheese. And so imagine that, how terrifying that manager would be.
Jesus.
Like you're in a children's park
Ooh.
and you're telling people like, hey, you're late, you're
Come
this, you're
here.
that. Come here. Like your
No
costume's on
running.
wrong. you know? And I thought that was interesting. And but he was so cool. He'd look at us, he looked at like the lieutenant colonel that was retiring after 20 years. He looked at you like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
Right.
It's
And
hard
yeah, and
because
like
they some lifers. I had one guy tell me he was a lifer. He got out. He got out as an E9, I think E8, whatever. And see, they hate when you say whatever because it's like, no, it was this, whatever. It doesn't
yeah,
fucking matter anymore. I'm sorry.
yeah,
But he had a hard time watching my videos because he said that he felt like he deserved all these things, that he was supposed to get this perfect job when he got out and he couldn't find it. And it was hard for him to accept that there was going to be a 20-something-year-old that might be in charge of him for a little bit. And I think that's a hard part for them. But going back to what you were talking about, you go into a new culture, right? But one thing I think that they don't address at all during TAPS, whatever the transition program, is that you have to learn how to grow into a new culture. That your leadership has to change, the way that you talk to people, the expectations that you have for people. And I think that is the real missing piece. If they start touching on that and they have someone that starts to teach culture, because it is culture, right? You're going from a place where, like in the Marine Corps, you can't put your hands in your pockets, which is fucking wild. Whatever. It's a
Yeah.
rule. It's a rule we have. We can't chew gum. We can't walk on and talk on the cell phone. These weird rules that made sense if you really picked it apart in the military, because it establishes permanent discipline and willingness and obedience to orders, right? But you get out, and I remember I made a girl cry in college because I told her to stand up if she was falling asleep in class. And that's the type of things that they don't really teach you, like the emotional intelligence and the cultural changes that you have to make. That there are no rules, that you can be a different person, that you don't have to just hang out with veterans. And I don't know why they don't teach it. Probably because it's so dynamic and so different, and it would take a whole college course to teach that. But
Yeah.
I feel like that's the missing piece. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's different well. So like I work IT now, like customer service, like help desk on the phone, like, hey, like can you fix my printer? Hey, my emails aren't loading, all that. So being someone like going off that team leader role who just went off in the desert and just like making sure like, providing information, here's the yes or no questions. So going there and actually having to sit down and have a conversation with a person that's having an issue, right? I kind of went into that state of mind, like, all right, they came up to me with an issue. I'm gonna find an answer right away. If I don't find an answer, I'm gonna struggle. I'm gonna do this. So like while I'm locked in, I'm on mute the whole time and they're just sitting on the phone. Like, I was at the beginning, I was that IT guy where like that sat on mute and just controlled your computer and tried to fix the problems. That's my personal experience. I didn't go to college after that. I even went to a CSP, and in that class was all veterans.
Mhm.
So that was easy to follow along. Even then, I was like a team leader for the group project, right? But I got my job, and obviously thankful for my new job. But it was still a new topic. Like I was still fresh to IT and working in this position right away.
Mhm.
I would like my coworkers like, dude, I need help right now. I have no idea how to fix this problem. Like, hey, like I was one of those guys. Like, let me mute my mic real quick, and I'd turn around and talk to my office. Like, dude, I have no idea how to fix this. Like, what's going on here? And they're like, hey, chill out, chill out. You just gotta do this real quick, do that, and it was kind of that even though it was not a high risk environment and even though the customer had time, it's still that I still had that mentality to rush. Like, I need to get you an answer right away. I have a problem. And as that built like team leader for so long, like I need to, like, I don't know what's going on. Let me go find an answer for you. And if I hadn't find an answer issue, I wouldn't do that. And if you ever worked with IT, right, you hear the whole term like escalation, right? I was a level one, like, hey, if you're spending too much time, if this is out of your league, escalate it to a level two technician. And that was one thing that took me so long to grasp in the beginning because I had to solve it. No, like if I escalate, if it leaves my hands, if I ask for help, I failed, right? I failed myself. Like you asked me for something, I failed to deliver it to you, and I had to pass it on to someone else. And while that's here, right, he's like, no, dude, we literally need you to escalate it because that's like we're wasting money, we're wasting time, we're paying you an hour to solve this problem that could have taken this L2 15 minutes to figure out. And for one that wasn't even in your scope, right? So that was one thing that I had to like accept and grasp. And I do a hybrid of over the phone help desk and also on site. And sometimes I'd be working with my boss and like, hey, like we'd be in the job site, like, hey, I'm gonna take these two server racks to the second floor. You guys go down here third. What do you need me to do right now? Like making myself useful. Like there wasn't a single second was, hey, I'm not doing anything right now. Do you need me to help you unbox anything? And I'd just be flowing, I'd be working, and then my boss would like pull me to the side, like, hey dude, are you all right? Like, breathe, dude, breathe. I'm like, what do you mean? And like, yeah, dude, it's all right. Just breathe. We've got time. We've got, 3 hours on budget. And he's like, I am fine, you know? And he's like, and like, as I say, I'm fine, that's when I actually realize like, I'm like zipping back and forth through the floor. I'm like blasting. I'm not giving myself actual time to breathe. And that's one thing like I wouldn't have noticed if they hadn't pointed out, because to me, that's my natural state of mind. Like, hey, yeah, it's like, hey, we're on site. What needs to be done right now? Like, hey, do I need to unbox these? Do you want me to prep these boxes for you? And like, hey, do you need help any programming this and that? Like, no, that's an L2 thing. Like, are you sure? Like, if you show me, I can help. Like, no, I got this. And it's that sense of urgency that I hadn't let go of. So
Question for
that's,
you.
yeah, yeah,
I'm guessing that sense of urgency did serve you at some point, right? Like I'm guessing that it did help with something, but maybe eventually it hurt a little bit and you had to dial it back. Just for me, that was the experience that I had. Like it got me to where I wanted to get. I did all these things, but it was at the sacrifice of my mental health and people
yeah,
looking at me like I was crazy and establishing this reputation with the police department because I did that. And then learning to dial it back. But I think that there's got to be some sort of healthy mixture of it, right? Of
Yeah.
using some of the skills in the right way, but knowing when to ask for help and escalate it. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, what was your experience with that? Did it help you? And what was the moment where you learned how to dial it back a little bit?
It was kind of hard to dial it back because, right, the whole mentality, if I ask for help, if I make this someone else's problem, then I failed. And I think how I got over that was just accepting what I failed. And it was hard because it's right in the military. That's like, oh, you're a shitbag, right? If you do that, if you pass it on yourself, if you make it someone else's problem. So I had to develop, not in terms of laziness, but like I actually like times where I literally throw my hands up, like that's not my problem, like that's his job, that's not yours. Like, hey, I can help, but like that's a security vendor question. We're not security vendor. We don't know how to set it up. So it was like really, I had to take advantage of the idea that it's not my problem,
Yeah.
right? Or
I
like,
like
hey,
the
I
idea of creating SOPs the same way that we had in the
yeah,
military of like, if it's this, then I can handle. If it's
yeah,
this, then I literally cannot. So therefore I will not, right? Like you
yeah,
end up wasting more time trying to do something that isn't within what you do just because you feel like you need to be of use. Because if you can't handle it, you're useless and you're not,
yeah,
right? But that's what we were taught in the military. So I think it can be useful when we want to really excel at something, but we have to learn how to dial it back in a little bit.
yeah,
Same with everything else that we learned
yeah,
from the military.
yeah. And that's that transition that I had to learn over time, that I had to learn from these projects, and
Mm.
didn't really sit down, especially with just like the nature of my job. Like I kind of sat down, gave me the job, and it kind of taught me as I went. So I had to learn from these job sites. Like I had to be in front of the customer, and they're watching me like zip back and forth through their office trying to get things done. Not saying a single word, like not having any human interaction. Like, hey, I'm here for an onsite, your monthly onsite. Hey, I'm here to check this. I'm here to check this. Realizing that the point of the monthly onsite is that I can be there on person or in person and speak to you, get to know you as a customer, get to build that relationship. But I didn't do any of that. Like, hey, I'm here. Like, hey, you have any issues you haven't brought up? Any tickets you have yet to be created? No? Okay, I'll see you around. Like, hey, one sec, I need to check the server real quick and make sure everything's working right. I need to like clean your wire management, whatever.
You were very
Um,
much about the thing that had to get done. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
So it got to like I do a monthly onsite with the same customer, and I kind of realized like 11 months in, like I've done 11 onsites with you guys. Like I don't even know everyone's name yet. I'm the IT guy that shows up once a month. I'm like, yeah, like I remember like going to their website and pulling up their like about us page to like remember their names. Sometimes like, hey, can I help here? Like, yeah, like I'm having this issue. Yeah, 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 I got you. And I go create the ticket, like, what was her name again? And then that brings a sense to like that resourcefulness, like, all right, how do I not embarrass myself here? Let me like, or what are my options? Oh, I can go to the website to do this, right? So it helps in some ways, it's damaging in the other because like it adds that sense of urgency that isn't always appropriate or necessary.
I love what you just said. So it is the resourcefulness that we have, right? I've been working on this idea of trying to find the right explanation of what it is that I believe, and I feel like you kind of nailed it, right? So it is the values and the things and the skills that we learned without even realizing that we learned it, right? I was I was out last night with a friend, and it was very humid outside, and this friend was complaining about the weather. And I realized that I wasn't. And it's because I've spent 7 months in Afghanistan, 8 months in Afghanistan. So I have a really extreme memory of what it means to be miserably hot. So like this doesn't affect me as much anymore. Yeah, it's hot. I'm a little bit sweaty, but I won't complain about it because I have an extreme memory. And it's like that is one of those skills that is not something that you can just put on paper. But it's like what you said of like the resourcefulness in the military. You can't just go to your platoon sergeant and say, "Hey, what was the name of the team leader that I have to meet over here, or whatever." You have to figure it the fuck out. So like that's a resourcefulness thing that you pick up. So like I believe that there are certain things that we get from the military that we can use in so many different ways in the civilian world, but we have to focus on those instead of the ego and the thinking that we have to knife hand people and that we have to. I hate the whole 15 minutes early to 15 minutes early to 15 minutes early because you end up losing like an hour a week, So like, and then honestly, sometimes that hurts you because everybody looks at you and like, oh, he's always going to be early, so he's making me look bad, right? Just be on time. You don't need to be early all the time. But anyway, I digress.
I actually do want to like go back to like the topic we were just on. I think that's, it's a cool name, like, Vets Rise. Rise implying the fact that we have something to rise from, and that's from the fall, and that's from that despair that comes after it. And going back to top off like the whole skills thing, like there are still some skills that are absolutely invaluable that can be transferred over. Like what separates a veteran from everyone else is like those are the skills that we learned. But the problem is if we don't transition properly, it our skills disassemble itself in all of the wrong ways. And I like, and it's like all the skills that I should be keeping, that I should be retaining, are now not there, while still holding on to the skills I shouldn't be holding on to. So like all this sense of urgency, all this like I need to find this, I need to the resiliency that it goes a little bit overboard. Yet I'm running late to on sites, I'm running late to work, or like I forgot my laptop a couple times,
Hmm.
when like you would be punished for all hell for like forgetting your helmet, you know. And I think that's, it feels like once you leave the military, you have that two options, and that's completely abandon and forget the person you became and so proud of and were so proud of, or desperately holding on to the kind of person you no longer need to be. Um, and it just disassembles itself. Instead of having that, you're being left someone with self-esteem issues who's too stubborn to ask for help.
Do you think that's because we were forced to be that way for such a long time that now we want to push back on it? For example, not working out because they used to make us do it, or being late because we used to always be early, or growing our beard out because we had to shave every day. Do you think it's a little bit of a rebellion?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say rebellion. I think it is more like I can finally be free from that, because this is the biggest things. Like if you're late, you're gonna get smoked. If you forget your equipment, you're gonna get this. So I feel like once you get out, like okay, I don't need to be on time anymore. But that's still a skill that we should retain. But then when it comes to the more drastic things like urgency and finding an answer for everything, you don't really have a consequence to tie that to, because everything falls apart. Or like it's like, oh, if I'm late to work, I'm going to do push-ups for like an hour straight, right? Whatever. But then when it's like, oh, I failed to find an answer for this, what happens? You just get told that you're a failure, and then they find someone else to do your job for you. So I think that's why like it disassembles itself in all the wrong ways. And I think if we can rebuild that, how can we pick and choose? Like, what are some great skills that we can still retain and hold on to, and let go of the stuff that's still bringing us down? Because there's absolutely some skills and things, behaviors that are absolutely only found in veterans.
So is it just like creating a positive memory to it now, or how would you go about it? Because I like what you said about disassemble and assemble. I like that.
I think it's like, because when you leave and you're going through all this, you have no guidance, everything just crumbles and falls apart. If as it falls apart, you can kind of, catch it from falling off and leave that there, and then just take off all the pieces that are causing it to fall apart, and then start filling that in with that new life you're trying to be. Um, and that's how I see it. And that's kind of what I'm on right now. So transitioning to like the channel that I do, it's, I spent so long like, okay, I'm out now. I need to become a new person. This is a new beginning. And it's kind of like, wait a minute, what if it's not about becoming someone new? What if it's not about building a new version of myself? What if it's becoming the person I always wanted to be? Not only am I healing myself from that journey, it's like, wait a minute, there's some things from prior to the military that I haven't healed from. And that's like the whole reason I joined in the first place, right? I was, pretty bad at whatever, like point 0.8 GPA. I didn't try at all at school. Um, and it was like an oldest sibling. It's like, hey, you like look at them watching you, like not doing anything with yourself. And that kind of that's kind of what pushed me. But now that I'm back, now that I have made that name for myself, all right, how do I start speaking to the parts of me that are still down there, that are, the damage that was done to me, like even prior to the military. So like now's my chance to heal back into that. That's just kind of the videos I want to do. Um, and if this is going to edit out, like, but my next video that should be coming out like this month is like healing the inner child.
Ooh, can't wait to watch
And
that one.
right, and that's kind of the process, because like as I made the video, like, wait a minute, I love making videos, I love watching these things. These are the things I was told not to enjoy, like growing up with like depression and like ADHD. It's like, to you, it's like kids don't know they have these mental issues, they don't know they have these impairments, so let alone know they have them. So when their parents, their caretakers tell them like, hey, you're being lazy, you need to try harder, they can't stand up and say like, Mom, I have ADHD. Like, all right, like I have it. But, imagine like a 6-year-old who's like screaming in class and hyperactive, and they're like, Mom, I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. They don't know that. So when their loved ones, their caretakers go up to them and say, you need to start trying harder, they start internalizing that failure before they realize even what's going on.
Fuck, you're speaking to me right now, man.
Right?
That was me.
And you take that in, and then like kids that experience trauma, like kids that lost loved ones at a young age, like before they even realize they experience grief before they learned how to spell it. And that's kind of how like I spread that message there. But I do these on TikToks. What I do is I make these 30-minute to like an hour-long video essays on YouTube. At least the plan is, that are all based on these like mental disorders that are tied to these stories and characters that I love. Like my video, like all of those characters are like, I saw myself in this. Like it's either something that I something that I experienced, or something that I wish I could experience. And that's a mix of like seeing this character going through survivor's guilt, seeing this character like adjusting to life out in the military, but also seeing this character getting that help. Like if this fictional character can get that, then what can I get? What can I build there? Like, especially for shows that are popular, like people that probably watch these shows that aren't in the military. Like I get those comments too. Like I'm not a vet. I don't know what's going on, but you use this anime and I completely get it now. It's like I built that bridge. I built a bridge between like some pop culture thing to something that exists in our own little pocket, in the veteran community.
I like the way you do it, because when you can see someone else's journey, it gives you an idea of what's possible. And I think we see that in the videos that you're doing. So I like the way that you bridge that connection. They're amazing, man. I can't wait to see the next video. And I love them.
Yeah, even more popular, like Captain America, Winter Soldier, right? You've watched that show, like, yeah, this dude is going through adjustment disorder. Like this dude went from being, Winter Soldier, he went from being an assassin for 90 years, frozen in ice, just one war. Like he just went from one fight to another, and here he is coming back, trying to get back. Especially all the horrible things he did when he was the Winter Soldier. Like if like some, sure, it's fictional, but if like some evil villain, like who was a villain at one point, can go through that and come back and heal and find that new community, what can I do?
Tell us where we can find you. Tell us where everyone can watch your videos, because I know they're going to blow up, and I can't wait to keep supporting you. But tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, so on YouTube, you can find me under CyberPsycho. I still go by the name Cjayy, but that's just kind of the name of the channel. So far, just that one big video right there for, why veterans miss war. I do a mix of, my whole thing is gaming, guns, and good stories. So I do a mix of like video game clips. I do a mix of like gear reviews. I'm still a bit of a gearhead. I still play airsoft. I still hit the range. And then of course these stories that you get them, like the stories within stories that you may not see upon first glance. And then, of course, I cut the video essays into smaller clips that people can find on TikTok and Instagram, also underneath the same name.
Well, listen, man, I really would love to keep talking with you, but I know that we are running out of time here. I have to hop on something else, but I would love to have you back on and just talk about one thing. I feel like we can spend hours talking about 1, 2, 3 different things, because I think that the way that you explain it, I love it. So I just want to thank you for being on here. I appreciate you, and everybody listening. I'm going to drop all his information in the comment section below. Go watch the videos. I think that if you like my videos and you want an even better explanation of the things that I'm trying to explain, go watch my man's videos right here, and we'll have him back on soon. So Cjayy, I appreciate your time, brother. Thank you so much. And is there anything else that you want to share? Any last pieces of advice that you want to give to everybody?
Just last words at the end of my video, right? Just don't be what they made you. You don't need to fight anymore. It's a different fight, but it's not in the same way. So go ahead, take off that armor and be the person you always should have been this entire time.
Love that, man. All right. Well, thank you. And on that note, we are out. And that brings us to the end of another episode of the Vet Rise podcast. If today's episode inspired you, made you think, or simply gave you hope, I have a small favor to ask. Share it with just one veteran or someone you think could benefit from my message. Your share could light a spark for them. You don't know who you might save. For more insights and to join our mission, follow my socials at JP, the Veteran Coach, and explore how we can rise together. Thank you for joining us, for being part of this journey, and for believing in the power of rising together. Until next time, keep pushing forward, keep rising, and never forget that we are stronger together. My name is Juan Perez, and thank you for your time.